I'm Farhan Dalla, transformational trainer, and welcome to Elevate Your Life, a transformational podcast, an invitation to take the journey towards your deepest self. It is my intention to inspire you to connect, move, and meditate. We'll tap in, tune in, and dive in, and together learn and reflect from authentic, real, and transformative conversations. Let's get started. Disclaimer. The information in this episode is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you have a medical condition, please consult with a medical practitioner. Hi, everyone. My guest today is Paul Sokolsky. He is the creator of Redesign Your Inner Space. He transitioned from interior decorating homes to interior decorating hearts. He is a visionary leader, author, and transformational specialist, bringing people back home from within and reconnecting them to the freedom that remains our birthright. Paul had led a healthy life. However, he had a life-threatening condition where a diverticular abscess ruptured, creating a hole in his abdominal wall. This left Paul with multiple surgeries and never-ending wound management. He was told by his doctor he would need yet another surgery or just let the wound continue to drain for the rest of his life. Paul chose instead to apply the teachings of Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he healed his body even though the medical community said it wasn't possible. Paul has had many mystical experiences and attributes his healing to doing Dr. Joe's work as well as being part of the Dr. Joe community. Hi, Paul. Welcome to Elevate Your Life.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure. It sounds so great when you say that. I love it.
Well, it's your story, so I definitely want to give it justice, and I want to dive into all the details because it sounds fascinating. I haven't heard a story like this. And so I want to start at the beginning, kind of around the area where, you're leading a healthy life, so you think, and the next thing you know, you're in the operating room and you're possibly given hours to live. So what happened?
Yeah, as Dr. Joe says, there's nothing like a good story, right? Just, super healthy guy. I'm totally, into holistic and, eat healthy, eat clean, all that great stuff. But as we get toward the end of the story, there's a purpose for everything, right? And I believe that everything happens for a reason. At the time I was in a relationship with this girl from Colombia, and I just actually had gone to see her and had just gotten back to the US. And I thought for some reason, it felt familiar, this pain in my stomach. It felt like a kidney stone. And after 2 days of excruciating pain, kind of went away, and then it came back even worse. And I was practically doubled over. And that night she had promised me, hey, can you please, a friend of mine lives in a building, can you go call German and, have him take you to the hospital? Like, that was a word I never used in my vocabulary, was hospital. And, there's nothing against doctors, but that's a place I spent a lot of time, invested a lot of myself in even homeopathy to heal the body. But excuse me, this was a condition that a little did I know at that point, this was going to really change my life. And excuse me. So that next morning I woke up with 105 fever, and I knew something wasn't right. So my buddy took me to urgent care, and the urgent care couldn't take me in. So I went back to my house, and they actually wound up coming to my house. Urgent care wound up coming here. And the guy looked at me, he's like, bro, this is not a kidney stone. You have 105 fever. I felt your heat walking through the door. You need medical attention. My recommendation is you go to the hospital. And he'd given me some kind of, I don't know if it was a pill or a shot or something. And I felt like $1,000,000. Like, whatever he did, I'm like, bro, I'm good. Like, I got this. Like, he's like, no, you're not good. I'm telling you, this is only going to be a temporary thing, maybe an hour or two. You need to get to the hospital, which I did. I want to go into emergency. And that's where they told me that I had an abscess in my diverticuli, but they said that they could heal it through antibiotics, but I'd have to stay over in the hospital overnight because otherwise, the pain was pretty bad. So they checked me in, and it was about the middle of the night that I just woke up with this uh, pain that I can't even describe. It was so unbearable. And I actually had been in the fetus position, and I guess the nurse had ran and got the surgeons. And when the surgeons came in, they had told me later that when a this is what they said, anyways. When a male is in a fetus position, they're preparing for death. And at that point, the abscess had burst, and it blew a hole in my abdominal wall in my small intestine. So, everything was coming out into my body. And so the surgeons came in, they said, we have to rush you into emergency, and we have to put a temporary colostomy bag on you. And, so they made me sign a waiver. And at that point, I was in so much pain. I didn't know what was going on. I wasn't even, all I was thinking was, there was a voice in my head, a part of me that said, don't worry, you're going to get through this. And that was part of the work that I had done previous with Dr. Joe and other modalities as well. But Dr. Joe was obviously a leading edge in my work. And so I came out of the surgery and talk about a life changing experience. I mean, it looked like I had, quadruplets in my stomach, and I had this colostomy bag on my body. And I was in such shock to be laying there and to not just be in excruciating pain, but to just see my body completely change literally overnight. I dropped, I think, 35 pounds in a matter of 4 days, because the body was starting to save itself, was eating the fat off of me. And I looked like a skeleton. It was crazy. And anybody that knew me was like, what? Like, dude, you're the last guy that
Yeah.
I would ever imagine this happening to. You're so healthy. You're such a healthy guy. So I think it was around 4 or 5 months after that surgery, they did the reversal surgery. And when they did the reversal surgery, it was about a week after that, the wound kind of popped open, and it was literally like peeing out of me, like this green liquid. And they had me go back to emergency, and they told me, no, this is just part of the healing. Well, little did I know that wasn't part of the healing. This went on for months. And after 4 months, my stomach, every time I would go to put my clothes on, my stomach, like my clothes weren't fitting me. And I'm like, what is going on here? So I'm back to the surgeon, and they told me, well, usually with this kind of surgery, the fact that you were in desperate, like you basically had 3 hours left to live when we pulled you into surgery. And the way we do the surgery, we can't staple or stitch you because it can create a lot of contamination in the body and can kill you. So because of that, the abdominal wall wasn't strong. So after the second surgery, which they cut me in the same spot, the third surgery, that second surgery created a ventricle hernia. And so now I needed a third surgery. So I asked the surgeon right prior to that surgery, I'm like, should I be concerned with this draining? I mean, I was literally wearing gauze I was changing the gauze on my body minimum 3 times a day. And I'm not talking about just like a little bit. There was like a lot of drainage. So no, no, no. He said it's part of the healing. Do the third surgery, which was basically almost like a tummy tuck. And my muscles were separated by 5 inches. So they pulled me back together, sewed me up, stitched me up. And it was about a week after that surgery that the wound did the same thing. It popped open. And it wasn't just in one spot, it was in like 3 different areas. And went back to the surgeon. And that's kind of where the journey for me began. That's really when I knew something wasn't right. And I am not putting down the medical field. This is not about that. This was more about a lesson that I needed to learn about, practicing what I preach is what the way I'll put it. And I did everything from that point. I think the surgeries happened. This was 2022 when I had the emergency surgery. That November of that same year, I had the second surgery. In April of the year 2023, I had the third surgery. So within less than a year, I had 3 major surgeries. And from that point, from 22 till last January, which is 3 years, my body drained. I wore gauze on my body continuously the entire time. And it didn't get any better. It kept draining. So I did wound care. I did infectious management. I did hypobaric chamber. I did acupuncture. Everything. Obviously, I was doing the meditations at the same time. So before, I think right after my third surgery is when I went to my first I went to my first Dr. Joe live retreat, which was the week long in Cancun. And I think that's kind of where, things started happening. Now, I had had many mystical experiences prior to this in different ways. That's a story for another conversation for another story. But this event that I had gone to, I believe that we were in the pineal gland meditation, and that's when I literally for almost 5 hours was flopping around like a fish out of water. I mean, the energy that was running through, 1 through 7 was like I knew something was changing in my body, but I couldn't quite figure out what it was. And at that time, I didn't sign up for a coherence healing because I figured, well, who am I? Like, I mean, there's people with stage 4 cancer and, you know, okay, I survived a very serious condition. And they couldn't figure out, how I was even not having a fever with this. I had the deadliest bacteria in my body that wasn't leaving. And they're like, we don't understand how you're like still breathing, let alone not like with fever and sick or whatever else. So I knew something was happening. So I came back from that week long and had another trip to emergency, another trip to the surgeon. And they're like, listen, you're a young guy, but this is something that's going to need surgery. And I'm like, I just don't want to do another surgery. So I realized at that point that the meditations, I had to change the way I was doing the meditations because of course I want to heal, right? And
Mhm.
Dr. Joe prefaces this so much in his talks and in his classes and meditations and whatnot about, and even the retreats about it's more, changing who you are rather than, it's who you become rather than actually the healing, right? So I was just in this mode of course, I'm human. We're all human, right? So I'm trying to heal this. That was my intention. But from that place, it was almost like a belief that I wasn't healed. And that came to fruition um, right before I signed up for the second retreat, which was the AFU in Marco Island. And this is where things get really interesting. The wound, like I said, was continuing to drain and drain and drain and drain. And I was at a client's, she was a radiologist, and she said, bring in your MRI or your CAT scan. Let me look at it for you. And she looked at the CAT scan and she told me, like everybody else said, this is a superficial wound. Doesn't make any sense, but there could be some underlying problem that we're not seeing. But I've got this surgeon. He's a top surgeon in UM. This guy won't steer you wrong. So I want to make an appointment with this guy, 72-year-old surgeon. This was probably the only doctor in the world that I had trusted at this point. He gave me his phone number, so I knew the guy was legit. He said, "Call me 24/7." Like he would literally answer. I would call the guy who would answer the phone. Right,
I've heard that before.
right. I mean, unbelievable. So I'm already knowing that okay, something's changing on my path. Right. It's the fact that I come in contact with this guy. So he's like, "Listen to me. I want to tell you something. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Your surgeon, let's just leave that alone. He didn't do you too well." He said, "But at this point, your best bet is to just leave it alone. You're a young guy. It's better to let it drain than for me to go in there because it's basically exploratory surgery. I don't know what we're looking for. There could be a foreign object in there, but if I have to go back and reopen you up, it's a big problem." He said, because you can, get the hernia back again or have other complications. And I'm like, okay, so let me understand this. You're telling me that I'm supposed to drain for the rest of my life?
Mhm.
Like that's not an option for me. So I went home from that meeting with the surgeon, and I remember doing one of my meditations I did. I don't remember if it was Blessings of the Energy Center, but it was I think at the end it was a laying down meditation. I remember in my meditation, I remember it was as clear as day. Um, that this vision, the spirit of Jesus Christ, Mary Magdalene, and Mother Mary came to where I was laying down, and he put his hands over my wound, and he looked at me and he said to me, "You're healed, but your work is to believe no matter your circumstance." And when I came out of that meditation, it was so real. And I just want to preface this, like I grew up Italian Catholic. I'm spiritual. No, I haven't gone to church in years, and I have nothing against religion, but I was never like a follower of Jesus. So I'm saying that with love. It's not that I don't believe in him, but I just wasn't like I was praying to him every day. So it was very interesting that he came into this meditation, right? It was an unknown. So I came out of that meditation, and that's when I realized, I need to change the way I'm doing this. And it became at that point not a meditation or intention to heal, but more so an intention to become that new version of myself, that version of myself where this no longer exists. And this is where it gets really interesting. Like, this is where the mystical experiences were just like popping left and right. So in my meditation, I don't know, it was a couple of weeks later, I audibly hear sign up for the AFU in Marco Island. So I go to the website, sold out. It was about like a month later, I get another hit, like sign up for the AFU. And I'm like, bro, like
Well, for
it's
those who
sold
don't
out.
know, you is called an advanced follow-up retreat, and it's for those who've already attended a 7-day retreat.
Correct. Yes.
Just people some terminology who aren't familiar with Dr. Joe's work or his retreats. Go ahead.
Understandable. Yeah. So you have to go to the week long, and then obviously to do the advanced follow up is the
You had
prerequisite.
already done a week long in Cancun at this point.
Exactly.
And you've
Correct.
already had 3 surgeries at this point, and now you've
Correct.
already to a second surgeon who's just like, "Let's just leave it and have you drain for the rest of your life."
Correct. So I have this mystical experience. I realize I need to change the way I'm going about my meditations. And this is really interesting. This is when you start to realize when you become when you become aware of the way you're thinking and feeling, right? Dr. Joe always says the way you think and feel becomes your personality becomes your personal reality, right? And to change that, you have to change the way you think and feel and become this new version of yourself. And so this was the time and place where I really had to put the practice to work.
Mhm.
And so I'm hearing this audibly, sign up for the AFU again, the advanced follow up in Marco Island. So I happen to just go, on the website that morning, and it was an opening. So I grab it and I register. I get in, and then the next day in my meditation, I'm hearing sign up for the coherence healing. So I sign up for
Do
the
you want to
coherence healing.
coherence healing is just for people who don't know?
Sure, of course. So the coherence healing in Dr. Joe's rooms, basically, there's a couple of days throughout the event, the week long or the advanced follow ups, where basically the entire room, all the energy. This is as of one. Like all this coherence energy is all the focus is all on the individual who's laying for a healing, and they have like I don't know more than 100 different stations set up where one person's laying on the ground, and I think there's around 10 people in each station that sit around them, and they do a meditation with the focus on the individual to heal them.
Mhm.
And it's an experience that is can't be explained. The love and the
Mhm.
energy that you feel in that room is beyond something that you can even articulate.
And I've experienced both. I've been both a healer and I've been a Healy, and I talk about my Healy experience and my transformational healing with my scoliosis, and it is a profound feeling. And I remember the first time I walked into a coherence healing in Orlando, I just burst into tears, and I've never experienced that before. It was just as you described, this profound feeling of love that just
Yeah.
your heart just breaks open or busts open. I mean, there's just no words to describe. And even though I was a healer, I was sitting next to another healer who was consoling me from
Yeah.
all the tears as we're trying to get ready to send healing to somebody else. But yeah, like I was just an absolute mess. But go on.
Yeah, get it. I get it. So I sign up for this. I sign up for the coherence healing, and as you know, and we can let the audience know. So in when you sign up for a coherence healing, you don't know if you're chosen until you get to the event. They don't tell you beforehand. So, and sometimes you could register and be it at the event, and maybe a day or two later they tell you that you've been chosen. So it's really they don't choose you. It's actually a random generator that actually chooses you. It's very interesting the way it's done, and I think they do that just so there's no favorites or whatever. So, uh, so I signed up for the coherence healing, and at this point, I'm doing everything still. My body's still draining, okay, and I'm remembering this message that I got. It's you're healed. Your work is to believe no matter your circumstance. So if you can imagine at this point that my wound is still draining every day, I'm putting gauze on it every day. And talk about your environment. Like how challenging is that to sit here and it's not like positive thinking. I'm healed, I'm healed, I'm healed. No, it wasn't like that, right? It was really a feeling. What is it? How am I going to show up today? And what does it feel like to be that version of myself that's healed? And that was work every day. So I'm listening to Dr. Joe has a lot of stories of transformation, thousands, and probably more than thousands of videos of people that have healed, that have gone through this process. And I'm driving in Miami traffic one day and I'm listening to this woman who's sharing her story about getting her coherence healing. And a lot of people talk about, I'm going to use words that may not resonate with a lot of people, but that's fine. It is what it is. But they see these angels in the room, very tall, 12, 14-foot angels in these rooms, and people who, when you get to that point in the coherence healing, you're vibing at a different frequency. The frequency in there, that the level of energy is just, it's intoxicating in a way. And people are able to connect to a different realm. And this girl was having a conversation with this angel, and this angel told her, "You're healed, but your work is to believe no matter your circumstance." And as she's saying this, I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly what I heard in my meditation. And as I'm saying this, there's a van going by on the left side. I always see 1111. Like, this van's going by, and it's like 1111. The last four numbers are 1111. But which was even more interesting was, as I looked to the right, there was another truck, and as it went by, the back window had an abstract cutout of Jesus Christ. So at the very time that I heard this message from this woman, from the very message that I heard in my meditation. So I'm like, oh my, like, it was so profound, right? And this was an unknown. And so this is 2 weeks before the event. I get to the event. I go to sign up, and they give me my lanyard and everything. And they're like, I asked them, so when do you find out about if you've been chosen for the coherence healing? And they're like, well, you'll find out at some point, but go to the next table for final registration. And driving there from Miami, there actually were two women on the platform that asked if they could, grab a ride with me, because they were flying in from one was coming in from Jamaica, one was coming in from California. I'm like, yeah, no problem. So we're all, you know, chatting in the car, and we all get there and disperse as we get in the room. And I go to the next registration table, and, I asked the lady again, like, so you find out at some point about when you get chosen for the coherence healing or not? She goes, yeah, they'll let you know. So as she's finishing the registration, she looks up at me with this big smile on her face. She says, "Follow me." And I, like, lost it. Like, of course, she couldn't tell me at that point. She already knew that I was chosen. So she walks me over to this side area. Like, there was like step and repeat, like, drape, and she brought me behind there, and I was just like bawling out of joy, right? And they give me my coherence healing number. And here's how it gets even more interesting. My coherence healing number was 63. 6 and 3 equals 9. 9 in the spiritual realm is, and I'm not like a numbers guy or anything like that, but I always look stuff up for synchronicities. It means new beginnings, healings, all these things. So I go back to my room. My room number is 621, which equals 9. The two women that drove with me, their room number was 9. So it's like, I'm just like, oh my God, this is incredible. So my first coherence healing that I received, I was telling this story, as when you come in for the coherence healing, you lie down, and then, everybody, like I said, sits around you. And then after the coherence healing, you can share your story with the people. And so I started sharing this story about what I just told you guys. And this woman's like, she was from Germany, and she said her nickname was 9. And so it was like, oh my God, this is incredible. So there was the last coherence healing that I received. I was standing in line, and this woman I wasn't really paying attention, but there was really nobody behind me. And this woman shows up behind me. She's holding a blanket, and she's like, "Oh, hi." I'm like, "Hi." She's like, and out of the blue, she just says to me, one thing I realized in coherence healings is, and before she's saying this, I'm thinking to myself, you know, man, I don't know. Do I really feel worthy to receive these blessings. I'm thinking this. And it was 2 seconds later, this woman's behind me and she's like, one thing I realized one of the things I do when I go in for the coherence healing is I just tell source that I am willing and ready and worthy to receive this blessing. And I was like, oh my God, it's like this woman read my mind. So come back from this incredible advanced follow-up retreat. This is September, still draining every day. And now we come to 2025. So this was last year, January of last year. I'm very, very consistent with the meditations. I'm doing them twice a day. I'll do setting my intentions every day. And I have this very interesting dream. And in this dream, this woman walks up to me in my dream, and she puts her hand over my wound and she rips out this. It looked like the curlers that the women use in her hair, like a cylinder. She rips it out of where the wound is, and I actually in the dream I actually felt my flesh ripping to the point where it woke me up. Like I was like, "What the hell was that?"
Mhm.
And it was about a week later that I had this like a lot of like more than I had ever had before drainage coming out of my body, and it had a very foul odor to it. And I'm like, oh my God, what is going on now? So I go back to the surgeon at UM, and he's like, bro, we have to schedule surgery. You can't, there's nothing else that's going to work here. You need to schedule a surgery. This is getting serious now. This is something we have to do. Choose when you want to do it. It's your choice. And I just told myself when I walked out, I'm like, I am not doing surgery. No, there's no way I'm doing surgery. About 3 weeks later, I'm doing a project in New York, and I wake up from like my normal morning routine, take off my bandage before I get into the shower, and I take the bandage off, and it's dry. I'm like, oh, this is interesting.
Is that
So
the first time you've ever been dry?
first time. Well,
Okay.
so no, that's not true. So after my wound care, right after the surgery, there was a 2-week period where it was dry, and then it burst open again. Only this time it burst open bigger, and
Right.
they sent me back to emergency. So it was dry for so when this happened, I'm thinking, okay, I'm not gonna go back. That's an old thought. That's an old experience. Okay, that's a predictable thing. I'm just gonna I'm healed. That's just still my thought. So 2 days go by, 3 days go by. I'm like, screw it. I'm not gonna put the bandage on. And so I left it off, and the skin around where the wound was starting to like flake. It was getting kind of flaky and drying out. Never again. That was last January. We're what, in April? Never, ever I never had an issue with it again. It completely healed. The skin never opened again. It's, I've haven't worn a bandage in almost a year and a half. And it was the most, I don't know if it's something that I can even put into words, but I realized that this experience had many reasons, but I think the biggest one was that it was a test for me to prove to myself that I could heal, that this body can heal, that we're bigger than this mind, like we're bigger than this body. We have the power to do this. And Dr. Joe's work was the leading factor in this, because the thing I love about what he does is it's not just, the meditations, but he explains to you what you're doing so that you understand. And I think there's also the science behind it, which a lot of people need. At that point in my life, I had many other mystical experiences. So it wasn't like I
Well,
didn't believe in this work.
what was the response of the doctors? Like, did you show them like what had
I
happened in the
honest to
wound and
God,
what it healed?
never went back again. I
You never
never
went back to the
I
doctors.
never went back. I never went back to them. I'm like, this is a road that I'm going to take. Because at that point, I was literally, uh, health insurance here is like, it's crazy. I'm not sure about Toronto, but it's, dropping like $850 a month. And on top of that, it was like, after my deductible, I was still paying 10 grand a year out of my pocket for all the additional stuff. So I'm 30K in, not to mention all the other modalities that I did. And I was just like, you know what? I don't even need because nothing against that Western medicine, but they don't believe in that. They don't believe in healing. They're not taught that. And I get it. I totally get it. So I'm like, what do I even need to go back for? And
Well,
for me,
yeah. Well, how long were you? I mean, you were already doing Dr. Joe's work. So, how did you get introduced to his work to begin with? And what was it about it that resonated with you?
I got introduced to his work about 5 years. This was back in 2000, whenever What the Bleep Was This, or whatever that first movie that he had done. It was a few years before that I had gone to, I started my spiritual journey. I'd gone to India. I went to Chennai, India, and spent like 3 weeks up in the hills of Chennai, India with these monks in silence. And I've never meditated before, never did anything. I had some pretty profound mystical experiences there. But here's where the rubber hits the road for me between doing Dr. Joe's work and what I learned there was that I didn't know what I was doing.
Mm.
Okay, so the difference for me was in Dr. Joe's work as I started doing his meditations, which was not right away. His meditations were years after. I think I started doing his meditations back in maybe I think 2018 or 2019. And I didn't do guided meditations. I did a lot of meditations with just music and silence and whatnot. But here's the interesting thing. I was actually fortunate enough one time to be Dr. Joe does. I'm not sure if you're on his Dr. Joe live calls that he does every month, but I'm a part of that. And I was able to have a conversation with him. One of my questions was chosen and I got to talk to him. And the interesting thing was, as crazy as this sounds, I was never taught to set an intention before meditation. I know that sounds absolutely absurd, but nobody ever taught me that. And the monks never talked about that. And if they did, which I don't remember they did, but if they did, I wasn't paying attention because I never did. So it was setting an intention and also understanding the mechanics of what it was that I was doing, why I was doing it, and then putting it to the test and seeing the outcome of that. Now, I had manifested many incredible things, many stages, many clients, I mean, real cool things. But I don't really think I don't know if we really understand what's really going on, but there's a knowingness, right? There's something to follow that gives you some guidance. And that was really the big difference for me in doing his work versus some of the other modalities that I had used in previous years.
Hmm. So, you're doing the meditations, you're into the practice, and you're going through this experience, and you're hearing all, the medical opinion. And, you're going through all the drainage and changing the bandages and stuff. Like, did you ever think, like, maybe it wasn't working or you felt like giving up? And if you did, like, what made you continue to be persistent and still stick with it?
Yeah, so up until that mystical experience with the vision I had with Jesus Christ coming into my meditation, I had what Dr. Joe calls many nights, dark nights of the soul, where um, many trips back to emergency, and I was just like, it's like it's easy to listen to a lot of these stories and read. I'm a very avid, big part of leaving the monastery, staying awake in the dream. One of Dr. Joe's platforms. After you go to one of his retreats, you're automatically a part of that group. That group is like incredibly. It's There's so much information there. So it was really like uh, it was being involved with these communities that was helping me. But there was a lot of doubt for me. I was listening to these stories and I'm thinking to myself, well, yeah, well they healed, but I don't know that I necessarily can. And so I think what's also important is your environment, your community. And I have an incredible close knit family. Although I live, my family's kind of spread out all over the country, but um, one of the things I told him, especially my mom's like, old school Italian, like she's, oh, honey, you should go back to the doctor. And, I'm like, Ma, it's okay. I got it. And one day I'm just like, Ma, listen. And I told my whole family, look, I know this is maybe not what you believe or not, but I'm going to heal myself. Like this is something I'm going to do on my own. And I really need it. I can't listen to anything that's against that narrative for me. Like, I need to be focused on this. And so, in a loving way, obviously, because it's not for everybody. And I get it, and it wasn't like I just did the meditations. I was also putting myself out there to try different things. So, but yeah, it was just a lot of, I did have people around me, which was very helpful. But I spent a lot of time alone, and that's the hardest time. It's like there was many times where, I mean, it was scary. I mean, I'm talking like quarter size hole with like quarter-inch deep, like just opening up and like bleeding profusely out of my body, and I'm like, oh my god! And it got to the point where I think up to that point, it was very questionable how this was going to heal, and I think after that experience with my meditation, I realized that, you know what, it wasn't that I didn't believe, but I was going to put everything I had into it to do this. And I was confident at that point that no matter what, I'm going to keep going because like I said, this community, Dr. Joe's community, as well, I'll mention that there's a huge South Florida walking meditation group. If anybody's in South Florida, there's a platform you can go. I think it's on Telegram or WhatsApp, and you can, as long as you've been to an event, to an AFE, to a week long or an advanced follow up, you could become a member of the Walking Meditation group, and there's just a lot of support there. If it's not there, it's on the platforms. Leaving the monastery, staying awake in the dream, and to tie this in to answer your question, that was the biggest the biggest challenge. You're in the meditations, and I'm sure you could relate to this. Like, you're in the meditations, it's great. Like, you can go to the nothingness, you can go to the void, you lose your identity, and you're just in that it's space of now, that presence space where you're in the conscious mind. And but then when you go back out of your meditation and open your eyes, you're back in your environment. And I'm looking at my wound that's draining and the pain of my body. And, it's just like, I mean, I ruined so many clothes. It's superficial, but I ruined so many clothes from the drainage and sheets. And it was 24/7. There was no break. I mean, 24/7. And so, it was just, I think it was, I didn't give up. I think what I did was I allowed myself to just let things be and work on becoming that version of myself where this wasn't the case anymore. And I actually didn't think about healing anymore after that. It was more just the importance of changing the way that I think and feel and how I was showing up every day that really became the part of my healing process.
And this is a huge takeaway message. And I want to circle back to this particular part of your conversation in what you described as, when Dr. Joe teaches us to meditate, we're not meditating to heal, we're meditating to change. And that involves changing our belief systems. And one of the things you touched upon was the idea of worthiness and, opening up to the idea that you were worthy of healing. But were there any other belief systems? And you may have said it, but I would love for you to say it again. Like, what belief systems do you think you changed in order to fully heal?
Well, that was the biggest, of course. I mean, I'm right now, I'm literally buzzing. Like, my hair is like standing up on my arms right now. Yeah, I think it was a lot of things, I guess. I mean, I think when you start to become aware of how you act, think, and feel, when you start to become aware of that, that's when change really happens, right? Because if you don't know how you're being, right, how can you be something different? And then you're trying to create from a space of how you continue to be, the result of that is not going to be different. So it was really, feeling unworthy. And there were just times when I was just tired. I
Mhm.
was just tired. I'm like, I just like, how much more of this can I do? I didn't want to go out. Like, I was invited to do a lot of things. And to go on like, I'm a beach guy. I live on the beach. Like, I was, I mean, I was a body guy. I used to be a professional model for 15 years. I was a very, you know, um, I just loved it for me to take care of myself. So now I'm really like looking at myself and like it's just not feeling all that great about superficial stuff, but there were many things that really kind of was pulling me out of that space that would challenge me. And like I said, in my meditations, it was easier for me to feel that version of myself. I'm also a visual guy, so I was able to see it. But Dr. Joe really prefaces on the feeling because really the energy of feeling is everything, right? That heart centered energy. And so I would open my eyes and, it wouldn't be too long after that I would just, go to the mirror or come out of my meditation and see the blanket that I had around me was full of drainage and I'd be like, "Oh my God, like, how much more of this can I actually take?" And I just
Mhm.
kind of, I guess I don't like to use the word let go because that's the last thing I want to tell somebody when they're experiencing something difficult. Oh yeah, just let go. But it's in a way, it's kind of like let go of the old way and allow yourself to become something different. And in order to do that, you have to do things differently. And so I would just say unworthiness, a lot of frustration. There was a lot of frustration and anger, had a lot of anger about what was going on. And there was guilt. And it wasn't against anybody else. It was me. Like I was grateful for the surgeons. I was grateful for the community, for the wound doctor, for the girl that would come and change my bandage every work. At the time, the relationship that I was in with this girl, I mean, she basically took care of me. She stayed in the hospital by my bedside in a cot for 14 days. I mean, God brought her into my life for a reason. Like she was my angel for that time. The relationship finished after that, but she was, I mean, it was like the most perfect angel for me. So, but to wear a colostomy bag, I have so much compassion for people who wear that as a permanent thing, and it's just there are many things. So it was just it all tied into, and what made me realize was it tied into who I was, and that when you're in that state, when the body is out of, when it's not in when it's in dysregulation, there's a lot of diseasement, and that was through the way I was acting, feeling, and showing up in my environment every day through stress and many other things. So it's really important to pay attention to those aspects. But again, I believe this was a calling for me to not just understand and realize, but I believe I'm at a point in my life where uh, I'm in a place where I can help others to heal themselves too. And the realization became, in the process of, a lot of times we wait to fix ourselves. I just did a live on this the other day. It's like we wait to fix ourselves right before we actually show up in life. And
Mhm.
the realization that I came to is that you don't have to wait to fix yourself, right? It's the process. In the process, being seen in the process is what heals you. There's no reason to wait for anything, and it was a big, aha for me.
What would you say is the greatest gift you've received from this healing?
Yeah, just that, like the fact that we can heal our bodies,
Mhm.
and that the power of worthiness. Like I always go deep with this, but the fact that we're in this physical body enough to know that we're worthy. Like I don't know what it takes to come into physical, but I know that if you look at, forget about everything else. If you just look at the mechanics of the body and how it heals itself, and even when you get a cut or you eat food and how it runs the food through your body and expels of the waste, and it's running a system running on its own, completely
Mhm.
on its own. What starts the heart from the seed into the womb? What starts the heart beating? Like just many interesting things. I've always asked myself these questions. So it's like, wow, there are many more gifts than I can actually even realize. It's beyond the material things as humans that we engage with daily. And so I would say, number one, knowing that yes, I can heal myself, and two is like um, that gift gave me I think Dr. Joe says, gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership.
Mhm.
And not that I wasn't grateful for things in my life, but wow, I had a whole new meaning of gratitude, a whole new meaning of simple things that we take for granted every day, like being able to go to the bathroom or being able to eat or all these other things. So there was just a lot of things that I think we don't usually think about. right? And I guess when you're in that place and that time, you come to different realizations, and that's what it was for me.
I think hearing your story and hearing everyone's story on this season and all the testimonials, it's a reminder of just how powerful we are. And what I love about your story is when you were in that moment where that surgeon at UNM is saying, we have to do the surgery, we got to do this. And you turn to your belief system, and that belief system was belief in yourself and in
Yeah.
that personal power. If you didn't have that, you would have walked on the operating table and we would maybe not be having this conversation.
I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, there was, although I was saying, my future self was saying we are not getting surgery, but that old self was like, bro, we got to think about this. I'm like, there's like this battle, and there was a small part of me that was like, okay, maybe I need to think about this, and it was a millisecond, literally. Dr. Joe talks about the refractory period, right?
Mhm.
And it's from like the old self to the, and it was like minimal, right? So how long do we want to stay in that negative or in that disbelief or that old way, that refractory period from that to how the new self shows up? And I was like, it was almost instantaneous for me, but it did come up. And I think leading up to this point, I think also, obviously I had done other work on myself. I've, been in the personal development space for a while. But it's a whole different world in Dr. Joe's work in many ways. And I believe that mainly is because of the scientific part of it, which I said, I don't really need that because I believe in it anyways. But,
Mhm.
it's like anything else in life. It's like building a muscle, right? It's repetition and consistency. And if you're doing meditations or if you're doing things in your life because it's something you have to do, the results are not going to be all that great. It becomes something that you really want. And it was something that I really wanted. And all the stories of transformation that I listened to, although they all sound similar and they all went through the dark nights of the soul and the river of change and everything. Um, there was a deep wanting to heal, to change. And I think that's probably one of the most powerful things. And, you know, to celebrate that is another win because I can't explain. I don't know that I can articulate it in such a way when you heal like that. And I can't imagine, I've heard other people's stories of stage 4 cancer and all these things. Like when you heal from that, I want to say one thing that I want to tie back to one thing that was another gift. When you realize, when you have this realization that you can heal yourself, what the hell else can I do?
Mhm.
Like, I have that innate power to heal myself. I can do anything. And there's this confidence that is unexplainable, but you walk in this light. You walk in this knowingness that you're more than all of this. And for me, that was like the golden nugget to the gift that I received to heal this body and continue my journey on in helping others find simplicity in their life and heal themselves.
And that was the message you received in that mystical experience where Jesus appeared. That's a profound story, by the way. But having said that, since this healing, have you had any other mystical experiences? I love this part of people's stories just as much as the physical healing.
I mean, once again, I don't know if you can see this or not. My hair is like buzzing. I've had many. Uh,
Mhm.
right now,
Big major
I'm
one
using.
that you'd like to share.
I'm sorry.
What's one big major one that you'd like to share now?
Okay, I'm going to share one that is very very powerful. That just happened to me a couple of weeks ago. Um, I'm looking to put myself back into relationships, and I'm not big with the dating apps or whatever. But I decided, hey, I work a lot, so I met this girl, and we had dated for just a short period of time, and I'd gone to New York to do a project, and all of a sudden she just kind of like was MIA, like she wasn't responding to messages or whatnot. And so I get this hit. Like I get a lot of, it just sounds like myself talking to myself, right? But I get a lot of guidance. I've always gotten guidance. And thing comes to mind, and I'm thinking to myself, well, she's going through some stuff on her own. Could be that. Or I don't know, maybe she's, found somebody else or whatever. So it's a Saturday. I'm texting her. She doesn't respond. Nope, doesn't answer the phone. End of the day comes. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I haven't heard from her. So I send her another text. Nothing. So the next, she texts me late that night. She's like, hey, sorry, everything's cool. I'll call you tomorrow. Well, she never called the next day. I texted her in the afternoon, and I'm texting her through WhatsApp. And as I'm texting her, I send a message, hey, just checking in. Want to make sure you're okay. We could talk later or whatever. And I send the message. And as I'm as I got the phone in my hand, the phone slips through my hand, through my fingers and falls on the bed. Bro, I swear to God, I pick up my phone and it's written in all uppercase, run. RUN, run. And I look at my phone and I'm like,
This is on WhatsApp
on
or
WhatsApp, on
how?
WhatsApp, on
It's on
WhatsApp
what?
message. WhatsApp messaging. It says, I mean, I didn't write it. Like the phone just slipped through my hands and fell on the bed. And when I picked it up, it said run, all in uppercase. How is that possible? Okay.
Right.
This is Sunday. So don't hear from her. The next day, around 10 o'clock in the morning, I get a text message from her. It's like, hey, I don't know how to tell you this, but I'm trying to send you a message for the last couple of days. maybe maybe she's gonna hear this message. It's okay. It was cool. Like there was no hard feelings or anything. She's like, I got I was in love with this guy 8 months ago, and it was a complicated situation, and decided to leave. And long story short, he messaged me that his daughter was moving her apartment, and I went over there to help her. And when I went there, it was him, and he was there to surprise me. And I didn't know how to feel or what to think, and I had all these emotions running through me. And it's just, I'm just hearing this in the back of my voice, like run, like it's like that guidance that I got was like, and I mean, I'm reading the story and I'm not even paying attention to what I'm reading. I'm just like remembering the message that I got and the hit that I got.
Mhm.
And it was just, it's just absolutely, incredible. Like, it's just like, this is not, I'm not special. Like we all have this innate, gift. And I think the
Did
more
you
that you,
ask for a sign, or
I'm sorry.
had you asked for a sign, or did it just come to you?
It came to me. A lot of times I will. Like, so when a lot of times I'm in meditation, I'll ask, and sometimes I'll use Dr. Joe's words where I'll say, show me a sign in a way that I would least expect, but
Right.
in a way that would surprise me in such a way that that I would never doubt that it came from you, that
Mhm.
I'm having this two-way conversation with source. But this particular time, it just, it just happened. I heard the voice. Like it wasn't a voice, it was a thought. Okay.
Yeah.
And it just came into my mind. It's like, maybe she's, I don't know, maybe she found some, I mean, we were kind of dating. So it wasn't like, it was like 2 months. It wasn't like 1 week. So that wouldn't come to my mind, but it just came to mind.
Mhm.
So, but that to me was, uh, very interesting. Like, so
Another room we're always watched over and you're guided.
1,000%. Yeah,
Yeah.
1,000%. So, yeah, the mystical experiences continue to come, the synchronicities continue to happen. I had another powerful one, but it doesn't come to mind right now. They happen often. They really do. I mean, and I
Maybe
I
we could
wanna
go just on your mystical experiences because that would
yeah,
be
yeah, yeah. I actually did a podcast with a woman one time. It was all on mystical experiences, and I mean, just crazy, not crazy, because I believe in all of it. I never like to use the word unbelievable, but it is like
yeah.
super powerful.
Did you have Jesus come back or Mary Magdalene? Like, did that ever happen again, or was that just that one time?
Never, just that one time. When
Yeah.
I was, I haven't really shared this with a lot of people, but when I was 5 years old, like I said, I grew up Catholic, so we used to go to church and stuff. And I remember waking up. I don't know how you remember a dream when you're 5 years old, but I vividly saw the outline, spirit of Jesus Christ at the end of my bed, just staring at me. Like, I wasn't scared. There was no conversation. Like I said, I never really understood the story. I just went through the practice of Christmas and, like, now Easter, and I never really understood. And as I got older in life, I just, you know, for me, I like to do my own study, and the Bible has been rewritten so many times, and who knows the real story? Who knows what's really going on with the synchronicities? Who knows where we really go? But I could tell you something. I know something is bigger. I know there's something there energetically. I've experienced it in many ways. So that was a very young experience that experience I had when I was a kid, and I can see it with my eyes open. I can see that experience as though it just happened. So there's definitely a synchronicity to that, and the fact that I've been protected. All of us are, but the fact that I've been protected. I'll get walks. I'll get feathers on my walk, like literally. Like I'll ask for. Sometimes when you ask for a sign. Sometimes I'll ask for a sign, and I've literally had feathers like just fall out of the sky, like, oh my God, like right in front of me, like, seriously right now? Like, are you kidding me right now? I mean, and it's like, when that happens, and I'm not sure how many mystical experience you've had, but when it happens, it's like, it's not like you don't believe it, but it's like, it's so powerful that you're just kind of in awe, like looking at this and saying, oh my God, like this is incredible.
Amazing. Paul, I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about your work. You've gone from being an interior decorator, meaning homes, to interior decorating hearts. What is it exactly that you do as a transformational specialist? And what does your work involve when you're interior decorating people's hearts?
Yeah. So basically, I transformed homes. I'm a decorative artist, and I still practice that. But, as my whole transition from India, yeah, realizing I wanted to give back in a bigger way. And I realized, through the personal development space, what that looked like. And I was trying to really tie in to my life's journey. And there's a lot of transformation in people's homes that I would do. And I was actually, the truth was, I was flying back from a speaking engagement one time, and I was talking to this woman and telling her my story. And she actually said, wow, you've gone from like decorating homes to decorating hearts. I'm like, I'm gonna steal that from you. And
I love
so yeah, me too. And it really fits perfectly with that. So basically, I just I kind of help people through what I've experienced on my own journey. And I think that there's another notch to that now as we've talked about this story of, healing myself, but it's really bringing people back to simplicity. And then when I say that, I don't mean getting rid of like all your stuff and, living in a robe and sitting in a lotus position. No, live life, drink, enjoy, do all the things you love to do. But like coming back to simplicity about remembering who we are, and that's beyond this mind and body. And that's not a conversation for everybody, but I do it in a way that's simplistic, that everybody understands, right? It's very easy to figure out why you are where you are in life, by the things you do and the repetition of those things. And I kind of help people kind of like we go in and we break down all the inner walls of the old story. We kind of just lay it all on the table like a blueprint, right? And we just redesign how they want their life to be. And I've done this through one of my programs, newest program, well, new as of like 7 years, is called Redesign Your Inner Space. And through that, I was able to write a book called The Four F's: Foundation, Faith, Frequency, and Forgiveness. And I believe that they're all fundamental aspects of each person, right? The foundation of how we grew up, what we were taught, the things that we followed that are generational and habitual, and all those things. And then how forgiveness, when we hold on to, even though we say we forgive somebody in a traditional way, I talk about more like awakened forgiveness, where experience was something to teach us from our higher self. And we look at it from a place of it was for us rather than to us. It's easy to let a situation go. And that doesn't mean you have to agree with it, right? It's more an acceptance. And that was a big thing for me. And then faith is like what we're talking about now. It's like not in the faith of religion, but in the faith of, what do I really believe? Like, you really got to get clear. So I help people get clear about what they actually believe and get them congruent with that belief and how they show up in their lives every day. And then frequency obviously is just, same thing. Like, like my meditations, I every before I leave my house every day, I go on this beautiful view on my balcony of the ocean, and I go out every day and I set an intention, and I ask myself, even when I wake up, who do I choose to be today? And with Dr. Joe's work, obviously, like I want to keep that vision of myself, that future me, be in that feeling throughout the day and course correct myself. So I kind of help people in a way also course correct, right? Because they're going to come into a new environment, they're going to come into a new way, and it's very easy to fall back into your old patterns. So it's kind of in a way, metaphorically, going in, remodeling somebody's space, you got to take down all the old walls, take out all the old furniture, create a new design. What are we looking for? What do we want to build? What colors do we want to use? What fabrics? What's the theme? And then we put it all in a blueprint, and then we move forward to the transformation where we create a new space for them. And then at that point, like everybody, then it's up to us to do the work. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's really up.
Mm.
So for instance, metaphorically, you transform someone's house. Now it's up to them to upkeep it, right? To keep it in good condition, to maintain it, all these things. So it's a great parallel and metaphorical explanation of what I do to what I love, what my passion really is, and that's helping others.
And who is your typical client? Who do you normally work with?
I probably work with like the quarter percent of the entire world. So very wealthy people, they're billionaires that have their own planes and yachts, and I just finished a $100 million house a month ago. Big clients. But the cool thing is that I've learned from them is that money is not happiness, and I know that through the experience of these people. And I was
Mm.
actually gifted to do a palace. I did a palace in Saudi Arabia for a sheikh from the royal family back right when I came back from India. This is another story for another day, but another manifesting story. And it was my first huge international project. I did this 100,000 square foot palace, and he would come up to me every day. And this guy's worth gazillions, and he was sitting this plastic chair in this 100,000 square foot house that I was doing for them, like the entire house. And he'd smoke a cigarette and he'd be like, "Yeah, Mr. Paul, I lost like $7 million today." At the time, Dubai was, in a bad place. It was like the real estate market was crashing here in the States. And but he was just a cool dude. Like I mean, they treated me like I was their own. And it was really fun to experience different levels of wealth. And I've been able to work with the wealthiest people and attract some really cool people. I mean, I was blessed to do work with Tony Robbins. I did his house here in Palm Beach. I did our president's house about back in 2004. Donald Trump. I did his place in Mar-a-Lago. So just real cool people, and great opportunities. But I also created a lot of that stuff for myself too. So I think it's in direct relation to the way you think and feel, which is interesting when we tie that back to worthiness, because there is a part of me that knows I'm worthy, but there's also the other part that likes to play out. So that was an interesting realization for me as well.
Paul, can you give us a tip or something that we could do today to start interior decorating our hearts?
Yes. Remember one thing, no matter what, no matter your circumstances, our work is to believe. And that belief is doing the inner work on yourself, right? And just getting clear about what do you truly believe is possible for you. And sit with yourself for a moment and really give yourself, I mean, when I say sit with yourself, like phones off, quiet space, and really get clear about what's running the program. And when you realize what's running the program and you become aware of this, it's very easy to break down those walls, right? To redesign your space. It's a lot easier to break those walls down and start moving toward the new design, the new space that you're looking to attract in your life.
Mm. Paul, I want to thank you. This has been a fascinating conversation. I'm so grateful you took the time to speak to me today, and I'm glad that we could make this work. I will have your contact information if anyone would like to follow you on various socials, including your website, and who may be interested in your services, whether it's interior decorating their homes or their hearts. Thank you again, Paul, and I'm sending you my highest love.
So appreciate you, brother. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I'm Farhan Dalla. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's episode of Elevate Your Life, a transformational podcast. I hope today's conversation has elevated you in some way and inspired you to connect, move, and meditate. I'd really appreciate your support by following and rating this podcast. Come back soon and join me for another transformative conversation.